English learning journey.
English conversation, traveling to new places.
Have you ever traveled outside of the country before?
Yes, I've been to a few different places. I've been to Mexico, Canada, and France.
That's really cool. Which one was your favorite?
It's hard to pick just one, but I think France was probably my favorite. I loved the food, the architecture, and the overall atmosphere of the cities I visited.
That sounds amazing. I've always wanted to visit France. What were some of the things you did while you were there?
I visited Paris, Lyon, and Nice. In Paris, I saw the Eiffel Tower, went to the Louvre, and visited some of the cafes and markets. In Lyon, I tried some amazing food and saw some beautiful churches and cathedrals. In Nice, I relaxed on the beach and explored the old town.
That sounds like a great itinerary. What was your favorite part of the trip?
I think my favorite part was just being able to experience the culture and the way of life in France. The food, the wine, the art, and the architecture are also different from what I'm used to, and it was really interesting to see how people live and work in a different part of the world.
I can definitely see how that would be a great experience. Do you have any other travel plans coming up?
Yes, actually. I'm planning a trip to Japan next year. I've always been fascinated by Japanese culture and I can't wait to try the food, see the temples, and explore the cities.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Japan is definitely on my travel bucket list too. Have you started planning your itinerary yet?
Not yet, but I have a few ideas of things I want to do and see. I definitely want to try some sushi, see the cherry blossoms, and visit some of the temples and shrines. I'm sure there will be plenty of other things to discover as well.
That sounds like an incredible trip. I hope you have a great time. I've always wanted to visit Japan too. Have you looked into any specific cities you want to visit?
Yes, I'm thinking of spending most of my time in Tokyo, but I also want to visit Kyoto and Osaka. I've heard that they have a lot of history and culture to explore.
That sounds like a great plan. I've heard that Tokyo is a really vibrant and exciting city. Have you thought about what kind of activities you want to do while you're there?
Yes, definitely. I want to check out some of the museums and art galleries, and I also want to try some of the street food. I've heard that there are some really interesting and unique dishes in Japan.
That sounds amazing. I've always wanted to try some authentic ramen and sushi. Have you looked into any restaurants or food markets that you want to visit?
Yes, I've been doing some research and I have a few places in mind. I definitely want to try Ichiran ramen, which is supposed to be really delicious. I also want to visit the Tsukiji fish market in Tokyo to see all the fresh seafood and maybe try some sushi there.
That all sounds amazing. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. Have you started planning any other activities or tours?
Yes, I'm thinking of booking a tour to see some of the temples and shrines in Kyoto. I also want to check out some of the parks and gardens in Tokyo, like the Shinjuku-jun National Garden and the Yoyogi Park.
That sounds like a great way to experience the culture and history of Japan. I'm sure it will be an amazing trip. Do you have any other travel plans after Japan?
Not yet, but I'm always thinking about where to go next. I would love to visit some other countries in Asia, like Vietnam or Cambodia, or maybe explore some more of Europe.
Those all sound like great options. I'm always looking for new places to explore too. Traveling is such a great way to learn about different cultures and see the world.
Absolutely. I think it's important to get out of your comfort zone and see how other people live. It really broadens your perspective and makes you appreciate everything you have at home.
I couldn't agree more. Well, it sounds like you have some amazing travel plans coming up. I hope you have a great time in Japan and keep exploring new places in the future.
Thank you. I'm really excited about it. It's always great to talk to someone who shares a love of travel.
Definitely. Traveling is one of my favorite things to do. Have you ever had any unexpected experiences while traveling?
Yes, definitely. One time when I was in Mexico, I got lost trying to find my way back to my hotel. I ended up stumbling upon this really cool market with all sorts of handmade crafts and artwork. It was completely unexpected, but it ended up being one of my favorite memories from the trip.
That sounds amazing. It's always great when you stumble upon something unexpected and exciting like that. Have you ever tried any adventure activities while traveling, like hiking or scuba diving?
Yes, I've done some hiking and snorkeling before. One of my favorite experiences was when I went on a hike in Hawaii and saw some incredible views of the coastline. I also went snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, which was a truly unforgettable experience.
Wow, those sound like amazing experiences. I've always wanted to visit the Great Barrier Reef. Have you ever had any trouble with language barriers while traveling?
Yes, definitely. When I was in France, I had a hard time communicating with some of the locals because my French is not very good. But I found that people were usually willing to help and I was able to get by with some basic phrases and gestures.
That's good to hear. I've had similar experiences in some countries where I don't speak the language. But it's always nice when people are willing to help you out. Have you ever traveled solo, or do you usually travel with friends or family?
I've done both. I've traveled solo a few times, which can be a really rewarding experience because you have complete freedom to do whatever you want. But I also love traveling with friends or family because you can share the experience with people you care about.
That's true. I've traveled solo a few times too, and it definitely has its benefits. But I also enjoy traveling with friends because it's always more fun to share the experience with someone else. Well, it's been great talking to you about travel. I hope you have an amazing trip to Japan and keep exploring new places in the future.
Thanks, it's been great talking to you too. I hope you have some exciting travel plans coming up as well.
Actually, I'm planning a trip to South America later this year. I'm thinking of visiting Peru and hiking to Machu Picchu. Have you ever been there?
Yes, I have. Machu Picchu is absolutely amazing. The hike up to the ruins can be challenging, but the views along the way are breathtaking. I also really enjoyed exploring the town of Cusco and trying some of the local cuisine.
That sounds incredible. I've been wanting to visit Machu Picchu for years, and I'm really excited about the trip. Do you have any tips for the hike or things I should know before I go?
Definitely. Make sure you take your time and drink plenty of water. Altitude sickness can be a real issue, so it's important to acclimate yourself before attempting the hike. I would also recommend hiring a guide, as they can provide a lot of insight into the history and culture of the area.
Thanks for the advice. I'll definitely keep that in mind. Have you ever visited any other countries in South America?
Yes, I've been to Brazil and Argentina as well. I loved exploring Rio de Janeiro and seeing the Christ the Redeemer statue up close. And Buenos Aires has a really vibrant and energetic culture.
Those are both places that I would love to visit as well. It sounds like you've had some amazing travel experiences. Have you ever thought about turning your passion for travel into a career?
Actually, I have. I've been considering becoming a travel blogger or photographer, as a way to share my experiences with others and hopefully inspire them to explore the world too.
That's a great idea. I think there's a real demand for authentic and inspiring travel content. You should definitely go for it. Well, it's been great talking to you about travel. I hope you have an amazing time on your future trips.
Thank you for learning English with us. Don't forget to subscribe to English Hub channel. Thank you, same to you. It's always great to chat with someone who shares a love of travel.
Absolutely. Travel is such a wonderful way to broaden your horizons and learn about different cultures. Have you ever volunteered or done any work abroad while traveling?
Yes, actually. I spent a few months in Thailand teaching English at a local school. It was a really rewarding experience and I learned so much about Thai culture and way of life.
That sounds amazing. I've always wanted to do some volunteer work abroad, but I haven't had the opportunity yet. Do you have any recommendations for organizations or programs that you work with?
Definitely. I volunteered with a program called Volunteer World, which has a lot of different projects and placements in countries all over the world. They offer everything from teaching and community development to environmental conservation and wildlife rescue.
That sounds like a great resource. I'll definitely check that out. Have you ever had any travel mishaps or disasters, like missing a flight or losing your passport?
Oh yeah, definitely. One time I missed a connecting flight in Istanbul and had to spend the night in the airport. And another time I lost my passport in Cambodia and had to go through the whole process of getting a new one. It can be really stressful at the moment, but looking back, those experiences make for good travel stories.
That's true. It's always important to keep a positive attitude and try to make the best of a difficult situation. Well, it's been great talking to you about travel. I hope we can keep in touch and swap stories from our future adventures.
Absolutely, I'd love that. Travel is such a wonderful way to connect with people from all over the world. Thanks for the great conversation.
You're welcome. It was great chatting with you too. So, what are some other destinations that are on your travel bucket list?
Well, I've always wanted to visit Japan. The culture and history are so fascinating, and I'd love to see the cherry blossoms in bloom. And I also have my eye on some destinations in Africa, like South Africa and Tanzania, for the wildlife and natural beauty.
Oh, I've always wanted to visit Japan as well. I've heard that the food is amazing and the temples and shrines are incredibly beautiful. And Africa is definitely on my list too. I'd love to go on a safari and see some of the incredible animals there.
Yes, the wildlife is definitely a big draw for me too. I've always been fascinated by elephants and would love to see them in their natural habitat. And South Africa has such a rich history and culture, with places like Cape Town and the Apartheid Museum.
That's true, there's so much to see and do in South Africa. I've also heard that Namibia is a really unique and beautiful destination, with its desert landscapes and remote communities.
Yes, Namibia is definitely on my radar too. It would be amazing to see the sand dunes and visit some of the local tribes. I think there's so much to learn and experience in every country, and that's what makes travel so rewarding.
Absolutely. Every destination has its own unique charm and character, and there's always something new to discover. Well, it's been great talking to you about travel. I hope we can keep in touch and share our travel adventures in the future.
Definitely, I'd love that. Thanks for the great conversation.
No problem, thank you too. Have you ever traveled solo or do you prefer to travel with others?
I've done both, and I think they both have their advantages. Traveling solo allows you to be completely independent and make your own schedule, but traveling with others can be a lot of fun and you can share the experience with someone else.
That's true. I've done a few solo trips myself, and it can be really liberating to have complete control over your itinerary. But I've also had some amazing trips with friends and family, where we were able to make memories together.
Definitely. I think it also depends on the destination and the type of trip you're taking. For example, I might feel more comfortable traveling solo to a city where I speak the language and am familiar with the culture, but for a more adventurous trip, I might prefer to have a travel buddy.
That makes sense. And speaking of adventurous trips, have you ever gone backpacking or camping while traveling?
Yes, I have. I've done a few backpacking trips in different parts of the world, and I think it's a great way to get off the beaten path and experience nature up close. It can be challenging at times, but it's also incredibly rewarding.
That sounds amazing. I've done some camping trips in the past, but I've never gone backpacking. I think it would be a great way to challenge myself and see some incredible landscapes.
It definitely can be a challenge, but it's also a great way to push yourself out of your comfort zone and discover new things about yourself. And the scenery and natural beauty can be absolutely breathtaking.
I can imagine. Well, it's been great talking to you about traveling again. I hope we can continue our conversations and maybe even plan a trip together in the future.
That would be amazing. Thanks again, and happy travels.